The street was ordinary enough, suburban homes lined with fences that were meant to separate lives and keep privacy sacred. Yet, to one boy growing up under these rooftops, a fog of unease cloaked the area, whispering tales both sinister and mysterious. As he walked its pathways, he saw a pattern too stark to dismiss. Every family touched by tragedy, every tale ending with a grieving widow or a whisper of divorce papers. Every family, that is, except one. This singular family remained intact, as if ensconced in an invisible shield, while around them neighbors fell like dominoes to misfortune. Their house sat quietly on the block, a guardian among ruins, or perhaps the source of them. With every passing year, the boy's suspicion grew, his eyes sharp as a blade, watching for the anomaly in the ordinary. What was it that held this family's unity so tightly together when others crumbled? He was on a quest for answers, and the questions shadowed his every step. As the boy grew into adulthood, the simplicity of black and white began to blur into shades of gray. He observed peculiarities that went beyond familial stability. The family's perpetually pristine image was marred by a string of clandestine behaviors, a neighborhood judge, yet themselves accused of fraud, whispers of connections whispering through the law's loopholes like a knife sliding through silk. They seemed to govern the cul-de-sac with an authority not given, but taken, all while skirting the ever-encroaching hands of justice with uncanny ease. Observing them from the sidelines, the man realized this wasn't merely a family, but a syndicate of influence and manipulation, operating under an intricate web of alliances and secrets. Everything took on a darker hue as he recognized them as collectors of power in unseen ways, through the artifacts of the occult, the hushed rumors of dark magic, whisperings of spiritual manipulation. His fear transformed into a resolve, a strange certainty. These entities masked in flesh monitored the hidden realms as much as they did the visible. It was a power play, soul versus spirit, deception versus revelation. Then came the turning point, the moment the veil slipped. The leader, once unassailable, was now on his deathbed. For reasons not entirely clear, the teller of truths found himself beside a man he had never trusted, extending a hand of help. The man had become sick under the weight of his hidden deeds, and in his ailing state, he sought the energy of purity from the one neighbor he had sought to oppress with spectral silence. Our observer, the man now forged in faith, lent his aid with a curious sympathy. However, even as he aided him, a shadow loomed in his heart. Could this too be a manipulation cast by the dying to drain his vitality? The questions gnawed, but the man continued his outreach, unable to resist the pull of compassion even in suspicion. He helped the man through his sickness only to see his health return, an occurrence as much a boon as a curse. How could light be wielded so precariously that it could either save or destroy? Heated by his spiritual convictions, the man was advised by a divine whisper, a proclamation to not gift the light to those whose darkness only grew hungrier. "You gave your light away," the voice urged. "Do not wander this path again, for where they tread, your light cannot extinguish their chosen shadow." Thus, the observer turned a more critical eye to those around him. He swept his home of malign influences, recognizing signs of intrusion both physical and metaphysical. The gifts they extended were spiked with intent, and what seemed as benevolence was poised like an adder beneath the grass. Chocolate, a simple offering, held the festering stench of a curse. Thereafter, the man saw the shadow trailing him step into the light, a family member of that mysterious household lurking not far from his door. Entrances and exits coincided with the recurrent misplacements he'd long endured, surreal as they were and provable. Within each discovery, threads unspooled, weaving a tapestry that reached beyond their community. He stumbled upon revelations that made the world kaleidoscopic with connections he hadn't perceived, political figures and families intertwined in a spectrum of crime, influence, and government. Yet this man, fortified by faith, saw these threads without becoming entangled himself. Undeterred by the lurking danger, he chose not to aid those who drained him any further. His resolve built walls of purpose around him, distancing him from those who sought to siphon his essence. The more he embraced his divine accord, the more he saw his choices leading to liberation. His refusal to serve their using wants left them to confront their emptiness. Their self-reflections were tales in their decay. And amidst this reflection came a sobering discovery while lifting the receiver of an old landline. A voice unfamiliar yet hauntingly recognizable answered back. His stealthy neighbor had eavesdropped on his most private moments. For years, the line, once a vessel of idle communication, had become an inadvertent monitor of his life's symphony, a jarring revelation that imposed questions of purpose and intent. How long had it been so, and to what end had they mined his family's narrative? It became apparent, a convergence of his past and present, highlighting an intricacy of the familial and governmental web that he had only glimpsed. Yet even now, there lay no vindication in retribution. The voice instructed him once again, observe, but do not engage. The trappings of greed and control had set a stage for their darkness to envelop them. In the end, what shadowed his community reflected the deeper, broader currents within humanity, the perpetual struggle between the desires of the flesh and the call of the spirit. The narrative revealed a lesson in balance rather than victory, a deeper understanding of the currents guiding invisible forces around us. The divine had shown him his path, one he chose to wander with awareness rather than fear. Each person, it seemed, carries a story written with the ink of our interactions. Some pages are filled with joy, others with sorrow, and while some turn them to seek power, others, like the man now anchored in spirit, turn them to seek truth. As houses at dusk cast shadows that climb fences, so do our lives cast the shadows of our actions upon others. The man, now more master than novice in the realms of both seen and unseen, understood clearer than ever the subtleties of influence and its cost. He walked from the stage they set, embracing the privacy of self-awareness, an inland lighthouse in a community adrift. In this exchange, the final reckoning emerged, a promise, a duty, to guard his soul's light with the vigilance befitting its grace. In the end, his life's linchpin remained unanswered, not in ignorance but in purpose. The could-be curses of others had not bound him. Instead, they had offered him a clearer legend to navigate his world by. And as the curtain fell on the scene that life had crafted on his street, his purpose resonated within the chamber of the heart, a reminder that the heart knows the truth even when the mind struggles to accept it. Did they know the cost of trading humanity for domination? He was left to wonder. Standing at a crossroad between what lay ahead and what he now left behind, he pondered whether others on this path might ever untangle themselves from the snares of their own making. As the shadows lengthened on his street, the question hung in the air, would they find that the greatest curse was not what others wished upon them, but what they bestowed upon themselves? The curtain may have fallen on one act, but the story was far from its end. Whether others chose to confront or ignore their own internal battles, the unfolding saga continued to illustrate a universal truth. Each decision, no matter how small, was a thread in the tapestry of a larger narrative. Across the world, countless individuals grappled with these very same dilemmas, each story both unique and interconnected within the human experience. In cultures that spanned continents and time zones, the question of internal versus external conflict played out in myriad ways. Some societies that once thrived on collective communality now face the struggle between maintaining close-knit traditions and embracing the alluring pull of globalized anonymity. Elders, steeped in the wisdom of countless ancestors, watched as traditions that had defined identity for generations blurred under the weight of modernization and acceleration. Meanwhile, for individuals navigating these rapid changes, their hearts remained the compass. When faced with dilemmas requiring an uneasy balance between ethical imperatives and well-being, they were tasked to decide whether to yield to convenience or uphold values that had served as anchors for centuries. Time and again, history demonstrated that the human heart, more than any conquering force or technological advancement, could foster resilience in communities newly confronted by change. In some places, the clash between preservation and progress ignited discussions that brought people to tables of discourse, a testament to the enduring truth that communication is the lifeblood of human coexistence. Grassroots movements burgeoned in response, driven by young leaders whose visions might once have been dismissed as idealistic dreams. Yet in their empowerment lay evidence that the future was not pre-written, but instead a mosaic shaped by deliberate choices. Through it all, remarkable individuals emerged as beacons of hope. People such as the environmentalist who rallied communities to restore once barren landscapes, turning wastelands into fertile fields. Innovators who harnessed cutting-edge technology to solve age-old problems, such as access to clean water and education. Cultural custodians who breathed new life into ancient languages, preserving the subtleties of communication that are the hallmark of human diversity. Each instance of perseverance evidenced how deeply interwoven and significant every contribution was, like ripples expanding across the surface of a pond. The butterfly effect, in which small acts of courage sparked transformative outcomes, illustrated that no action was ever too insignificant. The journey towards understanding, and ultimately peace, rode on the back of such small revolutions. Amidst the ongoing narrative of struggle and resilience was a growing acknowledgement of humanity's inherent responsibility to each other and the environment. New narratives began to unfold through mediums ranging from traditional storytelling to digital discourse. People sought stories that reflected their own lives, emotions, and challenges, a mirror that offered clarity and connection in the search for meaning and hope. Yet, within the overarching journey toward a more conscious global mindset, there remained the inevitable unpredictability of human behavior. Lessons from the past hovered like specters, from which actions sprung, flaws born from ignorance, fear, or greed, but also from transformative growth and unyielding compassion. The path forward would not always be linear, but the sum of these experiences suggested a definite movement towards complex awareness. The quest for self-discovery and human connection painted the canvases of numerous lives, each stroke filled with the potential for enlightenment or error. Just as the heart betrayed the pulse of truth, so too did it energize the sensibilities required for self-reflection. Across the world's expanse, people continued to discover the costs and rewards of their endeavors, much like the traveler who first questioned humanity's dealings with its own nature. As the narrative unwinds, so does the tapestry, where threads of experience, intent, and wisdom weave together, hinting at the promise of a future which, if not certain, is hopeful, where humanity might finally reconcile with itself. Yet, like any great epic, the complexity of this narrative warns against simplicity or naivete, urging a careful consideration of tomorrow. In the meantime, watchers of the streets and keepers of history will remain as lenders of cautionary tales, witnessing and shaping the chapters yet to be written. The story belongs to everyone, and within it, the collective heart beats audibly, guiding. We stand both authors and protagonists, bound together on a shared odyssey towards understanding and harmony.